If we looked at adding vectors graphically, let's look at adding them mathematically. And what you see on the screen is your basic vector equation. Vector A is equal to vector B plus vector C. Now this is not the same equation you learned way back in grade school, where 3 equals 2 plus 1. The reason being, vectors have direction as well as magnitude. So, when you have a vector problem, you need to set up a set of directions for each problem. Make sure they fit that problem. Quick example. Add these two vectors, B and C. Well, V is 2 meters to the right, and vector C is 7 meters to the right. We're going to say the right is a positive direction, and therefore the left is a negative direction. And the equation works out like this. Vector A is equal to vector B plus vector C. Vector A is equal to plus 2, magnitude and direction, plus 7 meters, again direction and magnitude. We add them together and we get a plus 9 meters. Second example, add these two vectors D and E. Let's move this a little bit so it's easier to see. D is 2 meters upward, E is 3 meters downward. And here we're saying that downward is a negative direction and upwards a positive direction. So I put a negative number on vector E, minus 3 meters, indicating it is a downward direction. So now I have a true vector, magnitude and direction. I do the addition. Vector A is equal to vector D plus E. Vector A is plus 2 meters, and I'm going to add vector E, which is a minus 3 meters. And as you already know, plus and minus is just a subtraction. We find that vector A is a magnitude of 1 meter in the negative direction. We're going to talk about vectors that are part of right triangles. And as you remember back to your algebra classes, or even before that, the Pythagorean theorem is nothing more than c squared equals a squared plus b squared. Quick example here. Find side A in this right triangle. And angle theta. Let's move this a little bit so we have more room. Here's our triangle. Angle theta, right angle. Hypotenuse measures 109. This leg measures 91. This is side A. Write out our equation. Substitute in our values. And for the size of angle A, we get 60. Now, angle theta can be found using the inverse trig functions. In this particular case, I'm going at the inverse tangent, which is the opposite over the adjacent. Theta is equal to the inverse tangent of the opposite, 60, over the adjacent, 91, give us an angle of 33.4 degrees. I happen to pick the inverse tangent. You could use any inverse function you wish. If I want to find angle psi, which is up there at the top, I can use, again, the inverse tangent. Give me this expression, which would be the opposite, which would be 91, over the adjacent, which would be 60. Give me a theta of 56.6 degrees. Now, notice 56.6 degrees plus 33.4 degrees add up to 90 degrees, which is what we expect the two non-right angles in a right triangle to be. Obviously, this would be the quicker way of finding a complementary angle, but I went through this one more time just to show you as an exercise. Okay, let's move on to vectors that do not form angles of 0, 90, or 180 degrees. In those particular situations may look something like this. We have side A, side B, side C, and angle theta. Or something like this. Side A, side B, side C, and angle theta. And in solving these problems, we're going to use the law of cosines. And the law of cosines is simply a squared plus b squared minus 2ab cosine theta. And note, theta is always opposite c. Quick example of how this works. Given the triangle below, find the length of side C. (20, 30, C, and 140 degrees. Starting with our equation. And I want to emphasize that you want to write out the equation. It'll help you learn it, and it'll help you track backwards in case you have a problem. C squared is 20 squared plus 30 squared minus 2 times 20 times 30 times the cosine of 140 degrees. Working our way through the arithmetic. Note I'm only using 4 figures here, even though my calculator goes out to 8. You want to remember that you don't round until you get to the final answer, so use all the figures that you have in your calculator until you get to that point. Reminder, minus times a minus becomes a plus. So c squared right here is 2219.3. And the length of side C is 47.1.